talk about the PACS archive. So keep in mind that this is just a drawing of somebody's design, mostly to explain the archive, so I don't want you to be alarmed when you look here and you see 3 PACS gateways. PACS gateways are also known as DICOM servers. I know I've told you repeatedly never to use DICOM servers in odd numbers, but hey, this isn't my book, this isn't my drawing, and really it's not what this drawing is all about. So you have, in this person's configuration, you have the DICOM servers going through the IMS first, and then into this crazy archive situation. So here you see you have NAS node 1, A and B, with 4 terabytes of direct attached storage. And then you have NAS node 2, 2A and 2B again. Each one has 4 terabytes of direct attached storage, which we'll talk about in a minute. And between them, they have a network switch, and there's a replication service that runs between node 1 and node 2. Right? So that creates a great level of redundancy. Whatever's written down to NAS 1 node A is also written down to NAS node 2A. So there's replication between them, so that if you lose one NAS, you're still up and working. And then over here, you have an 8 terabyte SAN. And this box represents the actual archive. So again, just to repeat, in their configuration, you have the DICOM servers going through the IMS, then sending to the NAS. The NAS has 2 sides. It's backed up and replicated, and then into the archive. And so also inside this box here would also be the database server. So that is one possible configuration. Right. So again, storing of exams are hard lines and arrows, and they go to here, and retrieving of exams coming out is this way. So that's how a NAS and an archive could be configured. I'd say that's a pretty typical configuration for most PACS systems, to have a replication server between the 2 NASs so that when one NAS goes down, you don't lose everything on it. The PACS archive primary components are, these are parts of the system that actually perform image file storage. They are the NAS, which provides short-term storage of the most recent studies, the archive, which provides long-term storage of image files. A long-term archive should provide storage for the federally mandated 7 years. The federal government says you've got to store images for 7 years. However, each state has its own digital medical information retention law, and these vary by state, with the shortest time being 5 years and the longest being 30 years. So depending on which state you find yourself in, or which state your archive is in, depending on if your archive is in the cloud or some other place, how long you have to keep the images will be based on the legal requirements. Here's a good idea. Just keep everything forever. Storage is cheap. There's really no need to spend a lot of time trying to delete images out of your database. I prefer to just store everything forever. It's easier that way. A network switch, which controls the traffic flow among the storage devices. That's a primary component. The network switch may also control the traffic flow between the primary and secondary archive components. PACS archive secondary components. Parts of the system that assist in storage and retrieval of image files. Without these components to deposit and withdraw image files, the archive will be useless. The database server keeps a record of every study and where it's stored in the system. The image management service that locates the studies in the storage network for retrieval, and the replication service that makes copies of the image files for business continuity. And that brings us to everyone's favorite part of the archive/storage space, the NAS. The NAS is a server with a bunch of drives in it. Sometimes it's referred to as a JBOD storage. JBOD stands for just a bunch of disks. Each drive has an indicator light on the front. Green means the drive is good. Orange means the drive has a problem. Push on the red button and the drive slides out. Put the drive in, simply slide it back in until the red button clicks in place. This is a picture of a NAS type device here. You can see each of these red buttons represents a drive. Those are all mini hard drives all stuck in there. Typically each drive holds 250 gigabytes, so the NAS pictured here has 20 drives, each one with 250 gigabytes. How many terabytes of storage is that? You figure it out, you tell me. The NAS holds all the recent studies. How long studies stay on the NAS is a matter of workflow design, and consequently when the studies are moved from the NAS to the archive. Some places prefer to have a big NAS with lots of storage space and keep up to, say, a week's worth of studies on the NAS. Maybe even a month if it's a small hospital with low volume and lots of storage space on the NAS. Studies will always be retrieved faster from the NAS than the archives, so the thinking is to keep the recent studies readily available. The downside of keeping a large amount of studies on the NAS is searches take longer. When the user clicks on a study at a workstation, it's a query retrieve process, meaning he has to go look for it and pull it back. Query and retrieve. Go look for it, pull it back. In other words, the study has to be located and then sent to the workstation. Having a lot of studies on the NAS means the query part of that equation will take longer. Consequently, some hospitals choose to keep as little as 1 day's worth of studies on the NAS and have it archive studies every night. This makes the query portion go much faster, but the retrieval process take longer. Which is the best way? If you have fast servers and slow network speed or low bandwidth, you may want to keep a lot of studies on the NAS. If you have a fast network with plenty of bandwidth but slow servers, you may want to keep few studies on the NAS. It really just depends on your configuration. The NAS server typically performs the first level of replication. When a study is sent to the NAS, once it receives all the images from the acquisition gateway, it will then send the study to a backup NAS server. The backup NAS server will be configured to store the study, and when archiving it, will usually be pointed to the backup partition on the archive. In this way, a second backup copy of the image file is generated. I'm going to pause here and do the second half of this as a part 2 because it's getting a little long. Stand by.